Hey everyone, it's Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy, here as your host for the Night Sky this week. Thanks so much for joining me wherever you're watching from. I'd love to hear in the comments, put in where you are located. Where do you do your sky watching, stargazing? This weekend we had some little bit of clear skies. Was able to check out those planets and that beautiful crescent moon. I don't know if you guys saw those. I posted some links on my social channels showing a sky chart of what you would expect to see. I hope some of you did manage to catch that sky show, and there's more to come, and we're going to talk about that in this week's broadcast. It's actually pretty nice, a little bit hazy around where I am. Whoops, let me just fix that. There we go. This keeps jumping around on me. My template here. Hold on. There we go. Check this out. This is the view of it. So I've got some nice clouds going by. It's kind of mild. It's about 5 degrees Celsius where I am. I'm halfway between the North Pole and the equator. That's where Montreal, Canada is in North America. And it's nice, but it's, you can see that haze. I'm hoping that maybe that'll go away and we'll get some clearer skies. If that's the case, this week I'm planning on taking photographs of the beautiful planetary alignment that's happening in the sky, and of course the moon and everything. Love hearing from where you're watching from. I see Godfrey is from Zimbabwe. Thanking for the broadcast. You're welcome very, very much. I have Alan from New Zealand. This is great, folks in the Southern Hemisphere. Well, what we're going to be talking about this week, you can see too. People right across the world can see this planetary alignment that we're talking about. Here we go again with this stupid template. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Something new. Let me just fix that up there. Anyways, so why don't we dive in straight off into the planetarium program, and I'll talk to you about what is making all this buzz this week. It's related to the planets, right? So you may have heard about, maybe caught something about on some major media. I'm not going to name sources, but there are a lot of mainstream news media that have picked up this story about the planets aligning in the sky, in the sunset skies. And I've been showing some pictures of sky charts of that. And here you can see of what I'm talking about. If we're looking at Monday, this is March 27th, 2023. This is the lineup of where the moon planets and bright stars are after sunset. So this is looking generally towards the west, right across the world. Now, the orientation of the moon and the planets that you see here are going to be different depending on where you are in the world. So the orientation will be different. If you're in the southern hemisphere, for instance, this orientation won't be skewed towards the southwest skies. It'll be skewed more towards the northwest sky. So you'll see these same lineup of planets and the moon, but kind of oriented in this direction, like you see here with my cursor. Here, for where I am, it's kind of skewed towards the southwest. That's where all of them seem to be kind of leaning towards. So it depends on where you are on the world, but you'll see the same stuff, same objects in the sky. Now, what they're talking about in the news is that the major planets, Mercury, as you can see here, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, and if you wait a little bit longer, if it gets darker, I'm going to show you if it gets darker. What you're going to see is also planet Uranus is going to be visible. Let me see, maybe an hour after. There you go. There's Uranus next to Venus. Really cool, right? And they're saying this is going to be spectacular view for sky watchers. I don't mean to disappoint, and I just want to keep it real for everyone in the expectation department. And I think this is where I'm really disappointed in mainstream news media, hyping things up and not putting things into context correctly, and also referring to sources that may not be really familiar with the night sky as amateur astronomers. Sky watchers who regularly look at celestial objects and know when and where to look. This is where amateur astronomers are really amazing, especially amateur astronomy associations are really amazing. And usually mainstream sources, they go to professors, in one case I read today, one really well-known, probably the most well-known news media source, they're going to a computational astrophysicist to tell them what's happening in the story. In my experience as a journalist, a science journalist, a vast majority of professional astronomers who work in observatories, who are working in front of computers, are not really familiar with actually practical sky watching experience in detail. And that's a shame, because this is where there's going to be a disappointment, I think, for some people. So one of the planets that they're talking about are the two planets, Jupiter and Mercury. You can see Jupiter and Mercury are going to be very low in the west. And I have to tell you, earlier this week, it's going to be very difficult to see these planets. You'll have a very narrow window of viewing time to catch these two planets. Jupiter and Mercury are going to be very close to the western horizon. You're going to have about 30 minutes from sunset, after sunset, about 30-minute window to catch these planets. And you'll need probably binoculars, because the glare of the sunset is really going to mask these planets very easily. Now, Mercury, after a few days, this is the view on Monday, March 27th, but 28th, 29th, 30th, and you can see March 31st. This is Friday. By Saturday, Mercury will be rising high, and it'll be much easier to spot. You use binoculars, but you should be able to know, when you know where to look in the sky with binoculars, you should be able to see it with the naked eye. It's still going to be tricky. Mercury is the most challenging little dot of a planet to find, but you should be able to do it by the end of this week. Jupiter is just going to be really difficult to catch, because it's so close to the horizon. You have to have that clear view to the western horizon, right down to the horizon is what I recommend. You got to find a spot like that to even have a chance of finding. So those two planets are going to be tricky. A challenge, quite a challenge. So it's not something that'll pop into view and look magically amazing to the naked eye by any means. Then you have Venus. That's the easiest of the lot to see. No problem to see Venus. Let me just go back to Monday. Here we go. Sorry, this is Monday there. And Venus is going to be easy to see after sunset. It's the brightest celestial object after the moon in the western sky tonight on Monday. Okay. And then it'll be there for the rest of the week. Venus won't change really. And then you have Mars. Mars will be right above the moon So you have this beautiful thick crescent moon pairing up with Mars. This is Monday, March 27th. So really great view, no problem. Venus, like I said, is also going to be joined by, if I just go later at night, by the planet Uranus. You see that right there? Let me just move it up very close to it. It has to get dark about at least an hour to 2 hours after sunset. This is set for 2 hours, low in the western. You'll have Venus guiding you to finding planet Uranus. It looks like a little green dot, and the two will be close enough like that to be caught in a pair of binoculars. This is about the view that you'll get. Looks like a green star. There's nothing else like it. It's a little disc in binoculars and telescopes, but you need binoculars, telescopes. Theoretically, Uranus is visible at 5.8 magnitude to the naked eye, but you got to be in the Sahara Desert or someplace super dark in a dark sky preserve to have even a chance to see it. And you have to have like near perfect eye vision. I know I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on this, but really I think a lot of people might be very disappointed thinking that they'll be able to see 5 planets in a lineup. And most of us who are casual sky watchers will have no hope in seeing that. Unless you pair up with an amateur astronomer with binoculars and telescopes and knows their way around the sky, you're not going to be seeing all of these. Your best bet really is to look for Jupiter and Venus, I think, are those challenging objects low in the sky. Again, very challenging. They're not going to be very clearly visible to the naked eye that much. You'll have a little window, about 30 minutes to see it, and that's the rest of this week. Later, like by Friday, Saturday, Mercury is going to be much higher in the sky. Remember that, as I said, it will be rising. You can see here as I'm moving through day to day. This is by Saturday. You can see by the end of the week, by the weekend, Mercury has risen much higher above the glare of the sunset, because that you can see that glare there. Jupiter is going to be pretty much lost in the glare. I mean, you really need to be have a really special viewing area and really know what you're looking for to find Jupiter. So Mercury you'll probably see by the end of the week. Venus you'll definitely see. Uranus next to Venus only when it's darker and with binoculars. Don't even try without binoculars. And then up here, Mars, no problem. You'll see it as a faint orange star-like object. It'll look like a bright star. It could be easily mixed up with Aldebaran, which is closer to Venus, and Betelgeuse, which will be over here. Also, both of these stars are orangish in color, similar to Mars. So it'll kind of make like a neat triangular pattern, these 3 stars. So you'll know that the one that's highest in the sky of the 3 that make this triangle is actually a planet, not a star. So folks, I'm just keeping it real with this. I'd really love to hear from all of you. I'm going to post this, obviously, onto my social channels. And I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you're going to see. With all this hype that's out there about seeing these planets, Mars, Venus, Uranus, Mercury, and Jupiter, how many of you are going to see all 5 planets? This is going to be a really interesting test to compare what's written up in mainstream media about observing skywatching events and actually what people, real life people, casual skywatchers. I'm not talking about dedicated skywatchers that are, you've been doing this for years and you have telescopes and you know everything about the sky. No, I'm talking about those of us that just go casually, maybe walking the dog, or you're just interested and seeing this broadcast and you're going to go out and try this yourself. And you don't have to head out to, by the way, into dark skies, the countryside. If you are in the city, as long as you have a clear view towards the western part of the sky, these brighter planets like Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and Mars are visible to the naked eye. It's just that you have to know where and when to view. That viewing window is critical when it comes to Mercury and Jupiter. So just letting you know, you'll hear even more probably if you're watching the news about this, but this is going to be an interesting test to see how many of you actually are going to be able to see all of these with your own eyes. My bet, you'll see Venus, you'll see Mars. Let me just go back to sunset today on Monday. There we go. You'll see the moon, great guidepost. Above the moon will be Mars. Mars and the moon are going to be together tonight. So you'll see those. And if you have a pair of binoculars, definitely, I mean, you'll be able to see both of them, almost in a pair of binoculars, in a wide pair, maybe just a little bit beyond that. You might have to scan with your binoculars, but Mars and the moon will be a beautiful pairing because Mars has that distinctive orange coloration, right? And then you'll have all these other bright stars. These are wintertime stars, by the way. Sirius, Betelgeuse, Rigel, Aldebaran, Capella. These are stars that are usually in the early evenings during wintertime in the northern hemisphere, or during summer in the southern hemisphere. For those of my friends out there, like in Zimbabwe and South Africa, these are very traditional summertime group of stars. And they're kind of bowing out, right? Because we've just changed our seasons. We're in the springtime in the northern hemisphere, and we're just starting the fall in the southern hemisphere. So we're changing the seasons. The sky is changing, and so these traditional evening time bright stars of the past season are bowing out, are getting lost in the glare of the sunset. So that's really the biggest thing this week. But I wanted to also, if I just go a little bit later in the night, once it gets dark, I want you to take a look at the moon pointing the way to some really interesting stars here, and also constellations particularly. So let me see if I can turn on some of these stars here for us. Show the stars at 4.5, and there we go. What I want you to look at is the moon is next to Mars on Monday, right? The 27th. Now, if we go forward in time to Tuesday, now you see the moon has switched onto the other side of Mars. There we are. We're in the southwestern part of the sky here. If you're in the southern hemisphere, remember, this is all oriented not to the southwest, but towards the northwest. So in this direction, as you can see my cursor for those of my friends down south. But for us in the north, it's in this direction, towards the southwest. And look at the moon. The moon is, by Wednesday, is going to be right next to the pair of Gemini stars called Castor and Pollux, the Gemini twins, famous in mythology. Well, right there, the moon is going to be pairing up with this beautiful double star there. Just a gorgeous sight, the three objects clustered together. Again, this is in the evening. This is on Wednesday, March 29th is when you see this pairing. Then if we move forward in time, by the weekend, this is Friday, Saturday, guess what? The moon is going to be in the constellation, the springtime constellation in the north of Leo the Lion. And this star right there is going to be very evident next to the moon. So again, this is Saturday night, April 1st is on Saturday. The moon and Regulus are going to be together close up. So you will definitely see that bright star pairing up with that moon on Saturday. And by Sunday, the moon will kind of move to a different orientation with Regulus and be in the belly of Leo the Lion. A great way to end the week. So I hope that's a lot of stuff I've pointed out, and I'm really excited, really particular to see what you guys are going to see with the planetary alignment, right? That is going to be particularly interesting. I wanted to, before I would leave, just before I leave, I thought this would be something interesting, is why we see the planets lined up. I got that question earlier today from one of you. And thank you very much for that question. I don't have the name of the person who posed it, but why are all the planets clustered together? It's because, again, this to me is fascinating. I mean, I don't think it was even picked up by a lot of news media, but I think it's really interesting to think of why the planets are clustered. Here's a view of the solar system and the tracks of all the planets, the orbits of the planets. Here you see Venus, that is there, but you'll see quickly here Earth and the other planets. And so there's Earth at the bottom. And just before I go, I wanted to see it. So why are we seeing all these planets clustered together? Well, here's Earth. There's the sun, right? The sun has set, remember? Okay. So just above the sunset is little Mercury right there. There's Venus, right? And there's planet Mars right there. There is Jupiter. Isn't that interesting? And if I kind of zoom out even more, guess what? There's Uranus right there. So you see Jupiter, Uranus, Mars, Mercury, Venus. If we zoom in on the inner solar system, you can see why the planets appear clustered together. From our point of view here, these planets are all in one section of the sky, right? All of them are in one section of sky in the same general direction that we're looking at, right? We're looking at in that direction. And that's why they all appear the way they do. From our line of sight, they all appear clustered together. They're not physically close, they're scattered about, but they do look like that. That's what they appear in our skies at night. They all appear kind of all clustered together. I think it's really amazing. That's what's cool to think about, right? There's some challenges that are going to be there and observe. If you have binoculars and telescopes, a great time to bring them out. Of course, I'm going to give sky charts for this week. I'll post them on a regular basis per like on a day, how they're changing, how the moon is moving through the sky. So don't worry if you've missed it here. I'll keep reminding you. Make sure you hit that notification button, whether you're watching Facebook, Twitter, so you don't miss my sky charts that I send out on a daily basis. That's really cool. So you'll be prepared to know what you're looking for. Thanks so much for joining me. If you are interested in this kind of stuff, then definitely you want to check out maybe my book that I have. I have my Backyard Guide to the Night Sky, out by National Geographic. It's a bestseller. Thanks to you, my friends, for supporting me. I've jam-packed this little book. It's a pocket book filled with all the good tidbits of observing constellations, deep sky objects, planets, how to choose a telescope, what kind of projects you can do with kids, all kinds of things about astronomy, and the science behind all the gee whiz stuff that's easy to understand. Just some really cool tidbits. It's available wherever good books are sold, but I'm also selling it on my website. Let's see if I can get that here. You can check it out. This is where it's available. I'm going to put a link. It's assigned dedicated copies I'm selling through my website, and if you're interested in that, makes an interesting gift. Of course, I'm also selling my newer book, which I'm a co-author with. It's the Stargazer's Atlas, the ultimate guide to the night sky, also out by National Geographic. It's a 6.5-pound coffee table book, so it's not something you put in your backpack. It's something that you curl up on your sofa, couch, and you kind of plan out what you're going to want to observe and learn about the background of skywatching, the humanity's ancient connections to the sky, stars, and mythology, and all that good stuff. All 88 constellations are there. My Southern Hemisphere friends are equally represented in this giant Stargazer's Atlas. Highly recommend it. It's available wherever books are sold. It's just published a few months ago. And I'm also selling signed dedicated copies. If you're interested, shipping internationally for both of these books. Phew, so that's a lot of stuff. Thanks so much for joining me. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, please show your support by giving me a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, whether you're watching on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. I'd love to see you supporting this. And my weekly videos, that's what allows me to come into your homes every week and share some tidbits of skywatching. Maybe getting you out there under the skies and stars and seeing all these cool stuff out there. I'm looking at all the comments. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here every week. And until the next video, I wish all of you clear skies. Bye-bye.